Michael Oswald, for the balance on a 1995 BMW. Michael says Jennifer Lynn repossessed the vehicle.
Yes, case number 493 on the calendar in the matter of Jenkins versus Oswald. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Jenkins, you and the defendant were divorced. And as far as I can gather from your complaint, as part of the judgment of divorce, your former husband was awarded a car.
Yes, ma'am.
And the car was jointly owned, and there was a loan on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Oswald was to assume the responsibility of that loan, pay off the car, use the car if he wished. When you left the house, which was when?
I moved out approximately the first week of April of 2005.
You took the car with you?
Yes, ma'am.
And ultimately returned it to the bank?
Yes, ma'am.
They sold it?
Yes, ma'am.
And there is a shortfall on the loan of $4,700?
Yes, ma'am.
And you want Mr. Oswald to pay that?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Oswald says?
Absolutely not.
You took the car, you turned it back, it's your problem.
That's
correct.
your
answer.
Absolutely.
He has a counterclaim. I'll get to it in a minute. All right, Ms. Jenkins, you want to explain to me why he should be responsible for this loan?
Yes, ma'am. I pretty much made all of the payments throughout the whole of the time we had the car together.
When was it bought?
It was purchased in December of 2003.
Okay.
So he primarily used the car. I had another car that I used to drive, and at one point he had a job where he had to drive back and forth from Bakersfield to Los Angeles.
I understand that you may feel as if there are certain equities in your favor, but you have a judgment of divorce that makes this his car.
Well, exactly. The reason I actually took the vehicle was once we filed for divorce, which was September of 2004, he was awarded the car, which I said was fine because I never really wanted it anyway. But he said, I will go down and assume the loan, take your name off the loan. I said, that's fine. That's all I asked.
He can't do that. That's totally up to the bank.
Well, that's right. We did speak to the bank, and they did say that that was a possibility as long as he qualified for the loan, which Mr. Oswald has a problem with employment, so I was the one that had the full-time job.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying to you, Ms. Jenkins. You may agree that you're going to take your name off the loan. He may agree he's going to take off the loan. The bank says, I'm keeping the one who I'm going to get payments from on this loan.
Exactly.
That's what happened.
You're absolutely right, Your Honor, and that's why I'm still making the payments on this car to this very day. In fact, when I get home, I have to go make another payment on this car. But when I took the car...
Well, had you discussed taking the car with Mr. Oswald?
Actually, no, ma'am, I didn't. I felt at that point he wasn't going to do anything. He had from September to April to when I moved out to take care of the situation. He even discussed with me that he was going to speak to his father about co-signing. I was getting ready to move out. We had an altercation where he became violent, and I said, that's it, I'm moving out. I went and got an apartment, and in discussing again for the 1,000th time him taking my name off of this paperwork and getting this car taken care of, the bank called me at work and said that the car was 2 months behind in payments. They said, and I used the words, we are looking for it.
In any event, you then resorted to self-help when you took the car yourself.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
All right, Mr. Oswald, when was the last time you made a payment on this car?
The situation that we had was that I would...
That requires a month. September, October, November, December.
I understand that.
The word situation is not a month.
I understand that, too.
So, are you going to answer my question? In
Yes, I will.
what month did you make your last payment on this car?
I personally did not make the actual payments. I paid her cash.
When was the last time, Mr. Oswald,
It would have been...
you made a payment on this car?
I believe it was 2 months overdue by the time she moved out.
Why?
Well, during the last few months that we were in the same domicile, we were having financial problems. We were both going our separate ways, and
Just
it was...
a second. Had the divorce been finalized?
It had not.
Had you entered into a separation agreement?
No, she was still living with me.
When was there an order giving you the car?
It'd be on March 30th, 2005, as specified by the divorce order.
No, the divorce decree became final in May of 2005.
All right, Ms. Jenkins, when did you know that he was receiving legal possession of this car?
When I filed the paperwork in September of 2004.
Okay. You knew in September that this was your car and your responsibility, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't make payments for 2 months. And you're going to tell me that's because you were having financial difficulties.
I made arrangements to have the car purchased I actually have a statement here from someone who was going to purchase the car.
Don't show me a statement, sir.
That's news to me.
If you, shh, Mr. Oswald.
Yes.
So my question to you is, did you discuss with Miss Jenkins that you were going to imminently sell the car and pay it off?
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I can guarantee you I did. After she took the car,
I'm saying before she took the car.
before she took the car, we discussed that I would keep it.
Right. I'm saying before she took the car, did you tell her, my plan within the next week is to sell the car?
No, actually I didn't. We
Okay.
weren't on very good speaking terms at that point.
All she knew was her name was still on the loan,
That's correct.
you were driving the car,
Yes, I was.
and weren't paying for it.
That's correct.
If I were in Miss Jenkins' position, frustrated by a tumultuous circumstance, she gives you the car without a problem in September, even though, according to her, she had been making some payments on the car while you were driving it.
She was still driving it as well.
Not after September.
Yes, after September.
I drove the car twice, Your Honor, after September, and that was to take my children to places, at which time, I don't mind telling you, that my daughter found his new girlfriend's belongings inside the car.
Well,
And that's when I
not
said-
necessary. That's not really necessary. In any event, you didn't do what you were supposed to do, Mr. Oswald, and your good intentions are falling on my deaf ears, sir.
Claiming Jennifer Lynn smashed his Palm Pilot and trashed his photo album.
Miss Jenkins, I want you to listen to me carefully. You can't do what you want to do with this car,
I understand.
resorting to self-help. See, when the bank sells a car, bank's not going to sell it for top dollar.
Yes,
They're not
ma'am.
going to sell it for what you could have sold it if it was sold privately.
Right.
You chose not to do that. You said, I don't want this aggravation anymore. I'm giving him back the car, and then I'm going to go after him for the whole amount.
If I could just interject something, I actually held on to the car until the end of May, and I still had a civil relationship with Mr. Oswald, and I told him...
That's not a long time.
Well, it is to me, Your Honor. I have 3 children. I'm a single parent, and I'm making a car payment, and I had put it on my insurance policy.
Then what you should have
He
done...
wasn't taking care of it.
Then what you should have done was sold it instead of giving it back to the bank.
Which is exactly what I was trying to do. I had
Mr.
someone
Oswald,
arranged.
my friend,
Yes.
my dear,
Yes.
your excuses are falling on deaf ears. What you were doing is sticking her.
No.
I assume
No, it wasn't.
that, listen to me, Mr. Oswald, what you had discussed in September was going down to the bank
Yes.
and having the loan put in your name.
Yes.
And you couldn't do that because your credit's lousy.
At that point it was, yes.
Because over the years, you have demonstrated a certain amount of irresponsibility.
Some things just didn't work out, basically.
They worked out better for her,
Apparently.
apparently because her credit was good.
It doesn't take any credit other than street
Mr.
credit to steal a
Oswald,
car.
you got it.
I didn't steal my own car.
Don't speak to
I
him.
know, Your Honor. It
Don't speak to him.
I'm sorry.
So do you understand, sir? So it would be very irritating for me supporting my 3 children and then having my credit placed at risk because my irresponsible, soon-to-be ex-husband didn't make car payments for 2 months and is working on getting it sold to a friend. So, Mr. Oswald, you're not off the hook, sir.
I understand.
But neither are you, Miss Jenkins, because you did also have alternatives.
Yes, ma'am.
And your alternative was to sell it privately and perhaps recoup a little bit more money.
Yes, ma'am.
So how much were you going to sell this car to your friend, according to your statement? Just curious.
$8,500.
Oh, Your Honor, that's more than we paid for it.
Just a second.
No, it's not.
Really?
It is.
Just a second.
Had I known that, I would have sold it.
Ms. Jenkins, how much did you pay for the car?
The purchase price of the vehicle... Oh, I apologize, Your Honor. It was $92.76 after finance charges and interest and the whole 9 yards.
$92.76. And you had somebody, sir, that was going to pay you
85.
$85?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Your Honor,
I doubt it. And if you had somebody for 85 and you used the car for 18 months, I would have sold it to them quickly.
I tried.
I would have sold it to them very quickly.
Had I had possession of the car, I would have.
I would have sold it to them before she took the car, sir, when you missed the first payment.
Well, she was
Well,
capable of
it's
doing
not an
that,
answer,
too.
Mr. Oswald. You're not off the hook on this one, sir.
Okay.
You didn't do the right thing, and the right thing was not to place the credit of the mother of your children,
They're not my
they're not
children.
his children.
the mother of your stepchildren, at risk of destroying her credit.
She places them at risk herself, not me.
Mr. Oswald, you're not a pretty person.
No.
The truth
In any
isn't-
event,
the truth isn't
in
pretty.
any event, you have to lose a certain amount of what you're asking for. The price the bank wants is $47.70.
That's right. That's the remainder of our
Right.
original loan.
And I believe that your self-help has to be in some way punished by the justice system because the judgment of divorce did give him the car.
Right.
I can understand you resorting to self-help because he actually breached that agreement by not making the last 2 monthly payments. And it's clear to me that from September until April, he had the responsibility for having this loan put in his name. He chose not to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
He could have asked his mother, his father, got a second job, got a third job, done whatever he could do.
He had first job.
Or get a first whatever. In what, whatever, in order to have this property taken care of. And he chose not to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's going to cost him $3,500. Okay, now let's get to your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for a piece of electrical equipment that Ms. Jenkins allegedly broke when she was having an altercation with you, as well as harassment. You say she's been harassing you by sending some sort of subscriptions in the name of your new girlfriend to either your house or her house. So let's see what you have, Mr. Oswald. Take your hand out of your pocket and then tell me what she broke and when.
This is my PDA,
Yes.
which was left in the car, along with many of my other possessions. And we communicated the fact that we needed to exchange certain items of possession, and we agreed to meet on a Saturday, not at my house, at a neutral site at 11:30 or so. She took it upon herself to come by my house instead at, say, 9:30 in the morning. This was April 9th, to be exact. She proceeded to ring the doorbell, and I refused to answer the door because it wasn't our agreement. My agreement with her was that we would meet at a neutral site. What she proceeded to do is take my Palm Pilot and other articles of my possessions and slam them up against my front door, damaging my antique front door, which I had just had refinished. And she destroyed my photo album containing photos, which I have pictures of all these things.
How did she get to your photos? Were they in the car?
All these things were in my car. And when she took the car, they were in
Photo
there.
album?
A photo album, yes.
I'd like to see the Palm Pilot and the photos, please. Okay, Ms. Jenkins, let's go to April 9th.
Yes, ma'am. What he said was partially correct. We did have arrangements to meet at another location. However, I just thought I would save him the trip, and he told me that his girlfriend wasn't living there and he wasn't seeing her anymore. So quite honestly, we had a civil relationship. I didn't see anything wrong with going by the house. I had been by there several times since I had moved out to pick
never told
things
her.
up, et cetera, et cetera. So I went over there and I approached the front door and I noticed her car. And so I just said, basically, I'm just going to give him his stuff back, whatever. I didn't go over there to fight. So I knocked on the door, and I could hear him behind the door. And I said, come on, Mike, just open the door. I didn't come over here to fight with you. And he was what I felt like baiting me, and I was furious. So I went to my car, and I can tell you exactly what was in the car. It was a pair of gloves, a pair of topsiders, a card from his girlfriend, a photo album, which he gave me as a gift and then put his photos in it, and then the Palm Pilot. Well, I scooped everything up with the exception of the Palm Pilot because I was furious and I just didn't see it sitting there on the seat. Went to the front door and I said, here's all of your crap. Only I used another word. And I took the photo album and I did tear the pages out of it. I didn't destroy the photos. And I just threw it on the ground. I threw the gloves. I threw the shoes. And then I went and got in my car. As I went around the block, I noticed that the Palm Pilot slid over next to me. I paid for that Palm Pilot.
I don't care whether you paid for it or not.
Okay.
Did you
in any
break
case-
it?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I took
Okay.
it, and I went
That's
like
all.
this
How
on
much
the
did
stair,
it?
threw it on the porch.
How much did you pay for the Palm
I
Pilot?
paid $149.88 for that Palm Pilot.
Now, the photographs, were they all ripped?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That was a nasty thing that you did.
Yes, ma'am, I was
Nasty,
furious.
nasty. Okay.
I wasn't the only one with nasty
Okay.
behavior.
She shouldn't have done it. You're absolutely right, Mr. Oswald. She shouldn't have done it, and you have to be compensated for your Palm Pilot.
I
and a
also-
little bit extra for the photographs.
I also, that Palm Pilot that was purchased was a floor model, so it was less expensive than as if it wasn't.
Find a floor model.
Well, they don't sell that one anymore.
Listen to me. Go hunting for a floor model.
I shouldn't have to be inconvenienced like that.
That makes two of us.
No, no. Why are you answering him?
I'm sorry. It's just
Now,
infuriating.
can we get to the harassment part of your complaint, Mr. Oswald?
Among other things, my front door was notched, and there are also pictures in that.
Get over it. I asked you about harassment.
Okay, well, that's part of my harassment.
I'm finished with April 9th, Mr. Oswald.
Okay. As the months ensued, Jennifer Lynn found out that my my girlfriend had moved in. And over the next few months, we received dozens of magazine subscriptions from an anonymous source with labels printed out on the subscription tabs with my girlfriend's first name and my last name. And we got so many of them that we actually filed a federal complaint. I actually had to basically burn a bridge with her employer to go over to her house and say, hey, Jennifer Lynn is using her computer at work to print these things out. And that's the only thing that stopped them from continuing. And I actually have all of those here.
All right, Ms. Jenkins.
Are you asking me if I did that? No.
Oswald, I'm asking you, there is nothing in that file.
Oh, okay.
Listen, I want you to put on your listening ears.
I'm listening.
There is nothing in that file that points to the person, although it's probably a pretty good guess. But there's nothing in that file that points to the plaintiff as the source of those irritating magazine subscriptions. My question to you was, do you have any proof, because you said you went to her employer and told her employer that the computer at work was used to order these things? And what I'm asking you is, do you have any proof of that, not what you want me to assume?
I have only two things to say about that. First, after I went to her employer's house, it stopped. Second, in an email that she sent to my girlfriend, which was very hateful, she said, I am not sure what the magazine thing is about, but I had nothing to do with it. Again, I don't really care if you don't believe me or not. I won't lose any sleep over it. And by the by, myself and your parents are not the only ones who know your name or Mike's last name. That's a fact. There are people that care about me and my children that didn't like the way Mike brought this down. Another fact.
Well, Mr. Oswald, that's a denial. She says, I don't know who did it. There are other people who know your girlfriend's first name and your family. Listen to me very carefully, Mr. Oswald. What you just read to me was not a confession. If anything, she says, I don't know who did it, I didn't. So you have no proof of the harassment. You do have proof that she destroyed your palm, for which you will be given credit on your counterclaim. You will also be given credit for the destroyed photo album and some compensation for the photos that you lost. My original judgment in the plaintiff's favor was $3,500. I am reducing that by $300 to $3,200. I am therefore dismissing the remainder of your counterclaim and awarding the plaintiff $3,200.